Hey guys, it's Logan here from EV Sportline. Today I'm going to show you how to install your very own RMaxx running board on a Rivian R1T. Let's get into it. Alright, let's see what's included in the kit. Right here we have everything that comes in the kit laid out. We have our two running board frames, passenger and driver side. The passenger is labeled with a P cut into the sheet metal. Driver is labeled with a D on both ends. We have our two tread plates for passenger and driver side. 8 brackets. On the T, they're gonna all be the same. On the S, we're gonna have different shaped brackets. And then our bag of hardware. Our hardware kit comes with a T55 bit, a T20 bit, carriage bolts for the bracket to the frame, and then smaller bolts to secure our tread plates down to the frame. Looking at what tools we need for this install, we'll need a cutting templates that you can download and print from the instruction page on evsportline.com, a drill with a 4-inch hole bit, a tape measure, a breaker bar, a torque wrench, a ratchet, a 7/16 and 14mm socket, a 10mm wrench or socket, a 4mm hex or 4mm hex socket, the supplied TP55 bit, and safety glasses. Later in this video, we will discuss 2 options for modifying the plastic trim panels. If you're going to be cutting the standard 4-inch holes in your trim pieces, it may be useful to use tape to hold the cutting templates in place while you drill the pilot holes for the circular cutouts. If you decide to cut L-slots in the trim pieces or remove the trim panels, then you will additionally need the supplied T20 bit, a 10mm socket, and a Dremel. Before we get started, we'll need to put the truck in off-road mode and set the ride height to highest. This will give us extra clearance to work under the truck without having to use a jack. To get started, let's grab our ratchet with our 4mm hex socket and our 10mm wrench. Using our small hardware, screw the tread plate to the top of the running board frame. The bolts will point down with the washer going in between the bolt head and the tread plate. Then thread the small nut on the bottom side to hold the tread plate down to the frame. Lay the tread plate on the top of the frame and hand tighten all 14 bolts and nuts into place. Once they are hand tight, go through and tighten all 14 bolts and nuts using our 10mm wrench, 4mm hex socket, and our ratchet. And then torque them down to 8 foot-pounds. Before we go any further, it's important to note that the RMaxx kits for the R1T and R1S are a little bit different. Notice that the R1T has 4 of the same brackets going down each side of the vehicle to hold the running board in place, while the R1S uses only 3 brackets down each side, with the rear brackets on each side being unique. As you can see in this picture, the 2 rear brackets have circular cutouts. We can tell the rear passenger and rear driver's bracket apart by the half circle cutout location. These half circles will face the front of the vehicle and give us clearance to use the factory jack plug location. Looking at our cut templates, it's important to note that you have 3 options when it comes to how we install our running board brackets around the factory Rivian trim pieces. The quickest option is to cut 4-inch holes under where each bracket will go. This method allows us to keep the trim panels on the car the whole time. If you want a tighter gap between the brackets and the trim pieces, we can instead cut what we call an L-slot into the trim panels, which will sit closer to flush around the brackets. This method will require the trim panels to be removed using a T20 bit and a 10mm socket. Our last method is to remove the trim panels and leave them completely off. These plastic trim panels are not necessary and can be removed without issue if you prefer to not permanently modify them. For our install though, this customer decided to go with the standard 4-inch hole method. Next, we'll tape the cutting template in place under the truck to know where to cut our holes. On each page are instructions on how to align the cutting templates to cut the holes in the proper locations. Using the TP55 bit, our 7/16 socket, and our ratchet, we need to remove the factory body bolts revealed by the holes we drilled. Be sure to press the TP55 bit firmly into the bolt as you remove it to avoid rounding out the head. Then insert our bracket and replace the TP55 body bolt and thread the body bolt back in just a little bit. We need the body bolts to remain loose enough to allow us to properly align the running boards later. Repeat this step on the remaining 7 holes for the R1T and the remaining 5 holes on the R1S. With our brackets in place, we can now hang our running boards using the carriage bolts included in the kit in the innermost bolt holes on the front and rear brackets and hand tighten them. Now that our running board is held in place, populate the rest of the bolts in both holes on each bracket and hand tighten them as well. Once you have the running boards aligned, use the ratchet and 14mm socket to tighten each of the nuts on the carriage bolt. Set your torque wrench to 35 foot-pounds and torque the nuts on the carriage bolts. With the bracket bolts torqued, we now need to torque the TP55 body bolts. We'll set our torque wrench to 80 foot-pounds for this. And with that, the install of our running boards on our Rivian is complete. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.